If there is one thing that seems to annoy drivers more than anything else, it's receiving a speeding fine. But is it worth fighting a speeding fine in court? My name's Dave, I'm a Brisbane criminal lawyer, and that's what we're going to be discussing right now. Let's be honest, no one likes opening their mail and finding a speeding ticket. For most of us, our first response is to go through the ticket and check the details. When did it happen? What speed was I going? Was it even me driving? After going through and checking that all the details look correct, most people will pay the fine and move on, even if it does leave a bad taste in their mouth. But many people choose to fight their fines by taking them to court. In some cases, this is the best decision and it makes a lot of sense. But in other cases, people are wasting their time or sometimes even making things worse. There are lots of different questions you need to consider before choosing to go to court for a speeding ticket, and I'll go through some of these now. Firstly, why do you want to fight the ticket? If I'm asked whether it's worth going to court over a fine, my first question is almost always, why do you want to fight it? The way I see it, there are three reasons why a person might want to go to court. Number one, you want to avoid a possible loss of license. Number two, you genuinely believe that you're not guilty of speeding. Or number three, you don't want to pay the fine out of principle. So let's go through each of these one by one. So first, you want to avoid a possible loss of license. For some people, they're at risk of losing their driver's license due to demerit points or because of a high speed offence, which is where you've been caught driving more than 40 kilometres above the speed limit. If you don't have a valid defence, not only will you lose the trial, but the magistrate might even disqualify your licence at court. This is only going to make things much worse for you. If you're worried about losing your driver's license, you should seek legal advice as there may be other options. For example, you might be eligible for a special hardship license, which will allow you to continue driving for certain reasons. The next reason why a person might want to fight a speeding ticket is because they genuinely believe that they didn't speed. This is a valid reason to go to court, but there could be other options available. For example, you might be able to write a submission to the traffic camera office explaining the situation and asking for the ticket to be withdrawn. However, if you do go to court and you have a valid defence, you should have a reasonable chance of winning a trial. Again, you should seek legal advice to discuss your options. The last reason why you might want to go to court is because you simply don't want to pay the fine out of principle. I think you need to be really careful if you're taking this approach. There is a lot of information available on the internet about how easy it is to get out of speeding fines, or explaining why it's unlawful for a person to even be given a speeding fine. A lot of the sites that have this information suggest that you can follow some simple steps and the fine will magically disappear. Unfortunately, a lot of the information out there is simply wrong and there just isn't the evidence needed to win a trial. If you want to fight a ticket out of principle, I'm not telling you that you shouldn't. In the end, it's completely up to you. But you should be aware that there is a lot of false information out there, so you should be careful what you read and what you bring up in court. Regardless of why you want to take a ticket to court, you should be aware of some of the potential disadvantages. First, it can take up a lot of your time. Most people don't realise just how much time it can take to fight a speeding ticket in court. You will need to allow for probably 3 or 4 days of being in court. This is because there will be a few court dates leading up to your trial date, and then there will be the trial itself. To make matters worse, your trial might not even proceed on the day. The courts often list 4 or 5 trials to take place on the same day, and if your case is a low priority, the court might not even have time to hear it. This will mean at least another day in court. The entire process itself can take many months from start to finish. Another reason why you might want to reconsider taking a speeding ticket to court is that you could end up receiving a worse punishment. If you lose a trial, the magistrate's likely to increase the amount of the fine. This is because you've required the police to come to court to prove the case against you. Therefore, if you're wanting to go to court to try and save yourself from paying the fine, be aware that it could end up being much more expensive for you. In addition, and as I've mentioned previously, magistrates have the power to disqualify driver's licenses for offences such as speeding. If this happens, you could miss out on your opportunity to keep your licence some other way. The last thing to know is that speeding fine trials are actually surprisingly complex. Often they come down to technical arguments about how particular radar devices work and how they're used by police officers. The police prosecutors who you'll be up against have years of experience running trials for speeding fines and other traffic offences. Usually, they also have received extensive training in how radar devices work. They will therefore have a significant advantage over you. I'm not telling you all of this to talk you out of fighting speeding fines. I also can't tell you whether it's worth going to court or not. You're the only person who can decide whether it's actually worth it or not. If you're at risk of losing your driver's license, there may be other options available to you. So before you go ahead and make any big decisions, I encourage you to get legal advice. There might be a small cost involved, but you could end up saving yourself a lot of time and money. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. To stay up to date with Queensland's traffic laws, make sure you subscribe, and until next time, stay safe.